Hey guys, in this video we're going to continue on our HP bar. It's an episode where I'm going to demonstrate the results first because we ran into more issues. So let's go ahead and click play, and you'll see that the update here now shows a text box of how much HP the character has based on the data table connected to the player character. But what I've done is now set up inputs just temporarily for keyboard inputs 1 and 2 to take damage and to heal. So now we've got our HP bar connected to our buttons and actions and responses. So I'm going to walk through what all of that entails. Primarily, this episode took some time because it's mostly about health functions. And I'm not the best at math operations. I had a lot of help with ChatGPT explaining what I wanted to accomplish. But I'm going to go ahead and walk through all of those. And as always, you can find the screenshots, the key screenshots for each episode in the Discord channel. So head on over through the link in the description, and you can see I've got all of the health function screenshots in this episode, and then all the other screenshots that are most helpful organized by the YouTube channel. So let's dive in. The first update I made from the last video, from the previous video, was in the data table player stats. I updated, and this is very important, case sensitive row names. Originally I had them in like milestones, level 1, 25, 50, 75, 100 or something similar. But what I realized is for each player or character stat, the way that I'm going to design the game is that it's going to level up one at a time. It can jump a couple levels at a time, but each level needs its own row. And it was time to make that happen. Same thing with the player level is now just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Speed, I just made it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's when I click play. You can see that the bottom right speed bar is now a bit slower. Oh, and I forgot to mention too, the speed data and the health data is connected based on what we see here. So right now it's level 1, and I'll show you in a bit when I update the level. The health is going to increase and the speed is going to increase. So we'll get to that in a moment. The next thing we did was create a new widget blueprint for the health bar. Or I'm sorry, no, we did this last episode, but we made some updates. In particular, we added 2 inputs because we created a function called update HP text. So this widget health bar now has some code. I know I wanted to have all the code lying in the main higher level, but for now, we need at least it made sense to put this here. So we have the update HP text. It's in a function, and we added the 2 inputs to the function in current HP and in max HP. And then the HP number and set the text. That's what we're seeing right here. So that health bar HP text is displaying, or I'm sorry, not HP. This number here, the variable, is the number you're seeing, the 125 that updates with each level change. We also added a event dispatcher, update HP. So you can find all of this in the screenshots. The third person character had quite a few updates, many updates actually. That's why I titled this episode Health Functions. So we've got updates to the third person character, the third person controller, and the battle UI. Let me start off with the event graph. Below this here, you can see that we're just pushing 1 and 2. That's how I was updating the health bar. I'm clicking 1 to take damage. When I get to 0, you can see a print string at the top left. That function death there. I'm pushing 2 a bunch of times to get to full health. Back to here. That's all that's right here, and that's not very ideal for later in practice, but it's good for testing right now. Here we continue from the prior episodes. So off of our event begin play, we're just continuing on over. This is where we set the player level. Right now we're just manually setting the player level. What I want is for the game to check how much experience the player has, and that's what's going to dictate the level. But in order to really do that effectively, I think we have to start talking about game saves. But we're not quite there yet. So what I can at least show you now, if I click on level 2, it's pretty simple. Oh, well, I might need to exit. So let's click play. Level 2, I've now got 200 HP and my bar moves a bit faster. Let's do that again. Now I'm at level 3. I'm at 250. Bar moves even faster. Level 4, I'm just going to jump to level 5. That's the highest I've got in the data table for now. Click play. It's going a little bit faster even. So now I've got higher health than before. All right, let's go back to level 1. In the event begin play graph still, I've got this recalculate max HP. This is the most complex function out of all of the ones that we've created for this episode. And then after that, we are doing a quick set of the current HP. We're getting the max HP, and we're calling on HP change that I think no, I haven't got there yet. Oh, that's an event dispatcher that we created here. I think in this current episode, I started organizing the variables a bit. So you'll see that variables are now inside of categories. So I created one for level and XP. So when you create the level, you can, in here, in category, you can type a new category or select an existing one. And what that does is it kind of groups them into collapsible variable categories. So for instance, I named one data table. I've got those two in there for items and player stats, everything related to HP, and then level on XP. It just helps me stay a little bit more organized because I expect this to get pretty lengthy. Another thing I expect is to kind of internally determine whether to move any of this HP stuff to a health component. Not quite sure yet, but I think that's a more standard approach, but I think with our data table approach, it might be a little different. I'm going to go ahead and dive into the recalculate max HP. This is super complicated and long, at least for me. I've got the screenshots in there. I'm not even going to try to I can just read what's happening, but it's basically the same thing as if you just do that yourself. So from recalculate HP, what I do know is we added an input for a Boolean called keep percent. That drags off way towards the end of the logic to a branch. But for now, we also have this symbol here, which is a V, which is a local variable. So I had to add a couple of local variables, actually a small handful. I've got old max, HP, old current, old percent, new max, and road data. So we're setting some local variables, which means variables that are not accessible anywhere else in this blueprint. Kind of keeps it a little more cleaner that way. And then we have some variables that are in the blueprint as a get. I think this is what I learned is that this is called caching old files, C-A-C-H-E. So we move along. Again, I've got screenshots, so this is just a bunch of math operations, except for this piece here. This is where we get the player level, and that's why I mentioned that it's important for case sensitivity. For the longest time, I was having difficulty generating any results because I had this as capital LV, and my data table is lowercase lv. So you'll see in the data table, I've got capital L, lowercase v, 1, etc., moving on down. And what we're doing here is we're getting the player level. We're doing an append, which means we're connecting two different, names or text. I guess in this case, it's a string. We're connecting two strings, which is by default, we're doing LV. And then we're adding to the end of that, the player level. And then we're using that data to set the row name. Doing a couple more conversions here. I don't think that's really necessary anymore. Just notice that. Let's test it. What happens if I do that? Same thing. Cool. Well, that's going to be a little nugget. I'm not going to update the screenshot because that's minor enough. But then from the data table, we break the stats. We're going to mess with the HP. I've got a print screen for debugging. If a row is not found, then I've got a little a note. Then we're again setting the max HP. We're doing more math operations, finally setting the current HP. Go ahead if you look at this and tell me if something is not making sense or expecting to run into issues, please let me know. But that was the most complicated of the math operations that we did, but we had lots more. So we did apply damage. With, again, this function had one input for damage amount as an integer, and we're moving on through. We got a screenshot in Discord. We did a heal, similar, with an event dispatcher colon HP changed. I think one thing important to note about these event dispatchers while we're using them is that the widgets are updating when they receive a notification via event dispatcher, and that's supposed to be more optimization friendly than binding a widget to any stat or character. So the widget gets updated based on event or an event dispatcher versus playing on every tick. Got 3 more. So we got XP required for level. We're going to mess with this later. We haven't really touched on experience yet. Some more placeholders for experience. These are added here, but we really don't dive into them. And then another one for level is check level up. So I've got this as well, screenshot in there. So that was it for the third-person character. Now for the third-person controller, we continue off of the event begin play, and after the battle UI widget setup, we do get player controller and we do a cast. We drag this off with a promote to variable, and then we unbind all events followed by a bind event on HP changed. The reason we put the unbind is, I think, to ensure that there's no endless loop, or it's a good preventative measure to do so. Then we go to bind event on HP, and then we're going to update the HP with the target as the widget or battle UI widget. And then in here, we've got one more function, update HP. So I wanted to zoom through that. Math operations for the third time is definitely not my strong suit, so very open for feedback. I think the simplest method would be go to the Discord channel and chime in, but happy to talk through comments on YouTube as well. So we're going to play again, pushing 1. Top left, you can see I continue to push the 1 button each time it adds a death, because I put a print string to say if the player has less than or equal to 0 health, send out just a print for a death notification. And then when I push the 2 key, it's going to heal. But what I want to do next is, instead of these key inputs 1 and 2, what I want is to have in the magic, have some responses here. I want to do a cure. I think I'll just do that. Cure is like 50, and then I'll do a cura, maybe cure is 100. And I think in order to do that, what I might be setting up is another blueprint interface for heal, and then maybe another blueprint interface for damage, and then maybe later on another BPI for maybe status or something when I do like poison or I don't know, silence or blind or something. So that's it. Thanks, guys.